wondered how knitting could change your life?
Can learning to dance make you happier?
What does baking have to do with becoming a better leader?
In this episode, we talk about 5 surprising ways learning an easy-to-ignore skill can elevate your life.
And if you make it through the wormhole, see you there.
All right, Frank, so we got to really think about why skills are so important right now, especially if we are wanting to learn something that can elevate, that can change our life. Personally, I think, the skills that I have developed in my time, I'll be honest with you, I don't think they're enough. I think I find myself deficient when it comes to skills, particularly as I navigate through my business, I navigate through my relationships with my customers, even with my friends. And so, humor me. What is a skill? What is a skill?
At its core, right, it's one of those words we throw around.
Yeah.
There's phrases, skills pay bills.
Yeah.
Among many other things, right? Like we hear. It's the applied information as it relates to a work. One of the best frameworks I've heard is this idea of jobs to be done. So what's the job you need doing, and then what's the process or the ability to get it done?
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because there are so many jobs in the day, it's like if you think about it, it's like brushing your teeth is a skill.
Yes.
Or at least properly, because some people, they say, "Oh yeah, I brushed my teeth," and they only spent like 5 seconds on it or something like that. So they clearly,
Maybe go back.
Exactly. So then, what are those jobs that you would say, or I tend to find that when I'm looking at my daily activities, what are the things that I'm polishing? The first thing in the morning, I need to develop probably my most important skill.
Yeah.
Is clarity and helping my mind, get the day started.
That's powerful there. When it comes to the thinking of skills, well, let's abstract the conversation a bit here.
Cool.
What do we need to do? Well, we're always working with information, right?
Yeah.
So it's either we're reading information or we're acting on the information. Again, what we know, what we do. Oftentimes when we think of skills, it's what we know that we do. We mentioned brushing your teeth.
Yeah. That's
really work. It's a specific action that you take to get an outcome. Namely, I want my teeth to last forever.
Yeah.
I want to have, make sure that the garlic breath is cleared out. Exactly. Simple things of life.
Yeah.
That's the skill. But there's the bigger skills that, again, they're habituated into bigger actions that ultimately we categorize them, right? For instance, accounting or marketing or whatever other subject that the work you tend to do that you get paid for, that's a skill.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So as we opened up this episode, we, one of the things that we kind of, the narrative, the questions that we brought out, like, for example, how does baking help us to be a better leader? How can knitting help us to, perhaps maybe write code? I think of it as zeros and ones.
Yes.
My wife crochets, but she's like, okay, 1 loop, 2 loop. She's doing this, and it's almost like it's like involuntary, like her body just knows what to do.
Yeah.
But it's that skill of learning how to crochet that, to me, that could easily translate to like code writing, or I don't know. Maybe we can explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. So we look at information, right?
Yeah.
Before you were your wife, right? She was able to knit and crochet. She didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So she picked up the yarn, she picked up her materials, her tools, and then she started to learn. Whether that was by experience, right? Which is interesting, right? Because when we talk about skills, it's the transfer of knowledge as well. Was it a maternal grandmother, mother who taught her? Was it learning from? Yeah. So oftentimes we learn, and this is something that's part of the underlying skills. There's an input process, a learning part. So oftentimes we learn when we are in joy. We enjoy, right? Happy, fun, good memories, right? We learn in school, whether through the good ways or the bad ways, right? But we learn. And then on the basis of that learning, we build. Again, we continue, right, with what eventually becomes a habit. But I want to say that it didn't start off with a habit. It started off with really concentrated effort, like riding a bike, right? Comes to mind. That's a skill.
Yeah.
But we don't see it as such, right? Because so many of us have learned how to do it. When we didn't know how to do it, man, was that hard. Yeah.
I know what you mean, because I've tried to crochet before, and it's just nerve-wracking for me because of the attention to detail that you actually have to, put through the loops. And I imagine knitting the same thing as well. She knits as well. But one of the funny things that she tells me, and I kind of wanted to play off of what you said earlier, is like the enjoyment. Knitting or I should say crocheting for her, it helps her stress level. And I'm the exact opposite. I'm just like, I get more stress out of this, but is it because I haven't mastered the skill, or is it just because maybe my brain or how I'm wired, like doing this podcast, and I know we'll get there.
Yeah.
This is like stress relieving.
Oh yeah. This is
But what do you think, why do you think it's enjoyable for some and maybe not others?
And that's the beauty of all of us being individuals with different perspectives, different makeups, and from what you're sharing, right? Attention to detail. Yeah, if it was me too, I that would stress me out. I like bigger picture conceptual things, right? When you're talking about the need to focus exclusively. But then it's interesting because we can connect it to the stitches of life, right? Like there's this tapestry we call life, right? And we're weaving it one day at a time, and eventually you have your masterpiece if you intentionally did it. Why do some enjoy it? It derives pleasure for them, right? In their mind, it's wired in such a way that like it releases dopamine, it releases serotonin, right? Like the payoff that comes when you learn something, right? And now you've got the output. But it's just interesting to think that we all have these gifts. We all have these skill sets that are either our brains are wired in a certain way, like for you and me, right? I love reading, I love information, I love like taking in a bunch of stuff. But a lot of people are turned off by that, and that's okay. But maybe they're phenomenal. And this actually connects with, there's a man by the name Howard Gardner, and he came up with this idea called of multiple intelligences. So, and I'll explain, and there's a fish in there. I'll explain what I mean by that.
Okay. All right.
So in this thought, right, some people are really good when it comes to music. Like their brains are wired for music. They can hear a song for the first time and then know it word for word. Some people are really good with books, with learning in school. Some people aren't. Yeah. Some people are really good when it comes to physical exercising. They know everything about the body, and they can take anybody and transform them into almost an incredible physique, right? Yeah. These are different intelligences. So he said that there's 9 different kinds of intelligences, and those intelligences are really ways that are able to wire into yourself, and then you're able to use them for skills. So we circle back to the beginning point. The skill is the work applied to a specific task or function, right, that you're working with.
That is fascinating. And the reason why I love talking about that subject alone is because it's almost like you're seeing the process happening and you're feeling it. You're going through it in real time. Like you just see it happen. It's like progress in motion, and you see it kind of like, a growing plant, a budding tree, a tree with a lot of fruits. Yeah. It's almost like it's a miracle to a certain degree.
Yeah. Everything has its measure, right? Okay. And when it comes to talking, like the challenge with a lot of skills is we know the outcome. Inherently, we all know that, okay, if I work really hard, then there's going to be a result. Yeah. We're expecting this, right? I put seeds on the ground, I'm expecting the produce to rise. Yeah. Well, skills are very similar, right? I know that if I invest into becoming a very skilled, again, emphasis on the word skill, right, worker, the outcome is I have a better career, I get promoted, I get invited to more opportunities. Because it connects, and I'll write this word down, ability. That's what it's about. Yeah. Response ability. Are you able to respond, right? Yeah. Like, ability is the action or being able to. So a skill is the outward expression of an inner ability. Yes. So, and that only happens when you learn about it, when you become attuned to it. But I think what we want to talk about is there's some surprising discoveries or abilities that all of us have, but we're not attuned. And it's like comparing it to like a radio frequency. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they still make those radios.
Absolutely,
on their phone, right? Maybe.
Actually, from what I read on the internet, there's a whole community of people who are literally keeping alive analog technology,
awesome.
like radio frequencies and things like that. Those guys, I mean, they're keeping history still alive for that specific reason, you know. And I think it's important to have that because it helps us. Like technology, you know, I know technology is supposed to make us better. I'm sorry to get on a tangent here.
Let's do it.
but the reality is that technology, even older technology, can still help us accomplish a process or a product or I don't know, or a goal.
I love that you say that because, and this is another. Let's go. Let's take let's square the tangent.
Let's do it.
It got lost in translation, right? That technology was never the solution.
Yes.
Technology is beautiful, and I'm all for technology.
Yeah.
My mind does. I love the skill of acquiring and knowing how to use technology.
Yeah.
But its intent was always to make the human better,
yes.
to express, to augment and enhance the docent or like the internal abilities you already have.
Yeah.
So that got translated into something that became, well, I can't use technology, I'm worthless. No, not at all. Like the tool is the tool.
Yes.
It's how you use the tool that ultimately enables you to. What do we want really, right? What is the end outcome of a goal or of a skill?
Yeah.
It's so that we can spend more time with our family, so that we can do work we enjoy, to make sure that our days count. And that's the bigger picture. But the specific here might be like, I can't pass this test that I need to get to the next level, right? Or I don't know how to code, or I don't know how to market, I don't know how to do, but this is all learnable. And if you focus on the skill of learning,
yes,
and realizing that, okay, this is information that's meant to enhance your abilities as a person, okay, now I see it differently. And that angle doesn't get covered enough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, man.
Let's see if we can transition with, like we mentioned in this hook, we've talked about like how knitting and crocheting can literally help someone better their skills, thought process, that could be in coding. I'm fascinated of the idea of how baking or maybe cooking could help us be a better leader or to accomplish a specific goal with a team. Why do we ask that question?
So leadership in itself is a fascinating skill.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's good to make a distinction between a skill and a role. Because sometimes they get conflated, right? They become the same for many people.
Yeah.
I am a leader, which means I am automatically good at leading. No, like you had to learn that ability. And when it comes to baking, and there's nothing more relatable to food, right? Like we eat 3 times a day, hopefully more, sometimes less.
We should be at least.
We should, right?
Yeah.
But we all know, and we've all seen expert chefs, right?
Yeah.
The order that they live with, they are leaders in the fact, the chef, right? They're the boss, like in the French word, right? Like the army leader, the chief, if we think in English, right?
Yeah.
There's a concept in French called mise en place.
Mm-hmm.
Tout est mis en place, right? Everything is in its place. And what does that talk about? Well, my measuring equipment's in place, my tools, everything's clean, everything's in perfect order, so that by the end of the process that cooking is, the chaos and the noise and the what looks like uncontrolled frenzy, right, of everybody trying to do the screaming,
the cussing. Exactly. I mean, have you seen like those shows on TV?
Yeah, have you seen Chef
Yeah,
Gordon Ramsay? There you go.
There you go.
Do you see that craziness? But everything is precise.
Yes.
And what you really see is that baking, cooking isn't about that. It's about the end output.
Yes.
That meal that's on the table, delivered for the customer that just paid their energy, which is their time, their money, to get that experience and to have their bodies fed.
Yeah.
That end output, right? Like that which is on their table was a result of somebody taking the skill, in this case the chef, to have mastery over his environment, translate and take these raw substances or this raw material, which is the food, the people, the spices, and convert it into a finished product.
Yeah.
That's skill building.
It totally is. And I think in a lot of ways, like what you just mentioned right there, for the chef, all of that happens way before the cooking process is even started. I've often asked myself, like, if you've ever been to those restaurants where, like, oh, what time do you guys open? Oh, we open up at 5. And I'm like, but you guys are a restaurant. And they're like, well, yeah, well, that's when we open up.
Yeah.
You know that chef is not starting his work at 5 o'clock. That chef probably at 6 in the morning, he went out to the fish market. He went to the farmer's market. He made sure that he had all of the spices. He did all of that preparation just to make sure that by 5 o'clock, he was going to be on.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when learning skills, especially like, for example, that we're talking about here with like leadership, if we're not taking the time to prepare ourselves to lead, at the very least, for our mindset to be ready to give direction and to, I don't know, reach an accomplishment like, like that of a plate, delicious food, and leading a team to, hitting month's end. I mean, there's a number of variables, but that preparation process is not done enough.
No. And it's I was thinking, I just made a quick note here to pencil this. There was a Netflix documentary, I just looked it up right here, Dreams of Sushi, Jiro, Dreams of Sushi.
Okay.
He's a man who was a Michelin star, he might still be alive actually, I watched it many years ago. His obsession was sushi, making the best sushi, to the point where I think it's like, back then it was like $800 for like a 15-minute session. But it's the best sushi you're gonna taste. And in his mind, he was always dreaming about sushi. He's always thinking about sushi. Like, that's all his life purpose was. His assistant took about 10 years to learn just how to roll a sushi.
What?
Before they even got a chance to work with the sushi. That was the process, the apprenticeship, right? The learning.
Wow.
The skill wasn't, the detail to be able to have such a precision, such a craft. But and the fact that he's a leader, because like you said, he prepared way beforehand. And oftentimes that initial idea, that decision, right? The word decision means to cut off. That's decidere, right? To let go of.
Or to kill off.
Or to kill off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In that moment, there is a dedication, a decision. I am going to lead. I am going to learn the mastery of myself and my skills to such a competence and level that I can then impart it onto others and provide a direction or a point that I'm heading to that wasn't there before.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's so. I'll show the sketch here.
There you go. Let's see it's on the camera.
Is it on the camera? Is it on the camera? You got it? You got it?
Nice. We're clearly trying to get out the kinks. I mean, this is our first episode, so it's fine.
Oh yeah, well, this is the rawness.
Yeah, there you go.
Goal, orientation, outcome. That's what it is. The goal principle, right? Like, get your goal. And the goal is, as human beings, we have, the fancy term is we're teleological beings. We have this ability to orient ourselves and orient our world around us when we set a specific point. Think about the archer, right? They start looking at a certain point, and then all of a sudden, it's like the world stops and the focus for the arrow goes there. But how does it relate to us? Well, when you set a skill, you take all the noise, thinking of the radio analogy, all the static, all that craziness, and now you're getting to fine-tune to that specific signal where it's clear.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it happens. When it's clear, then you know, this is my purpose, this is my outcome, this is where I'm orienting myself, right? The end destination. Okay, cool. So now, how do I get there? The skill is the bridge that gets you there. It's the work. Again, focused to accomplish a specific purpose, which you've identified in the form of standards, basics, working with tools, with your environment. You in relation to your environment and the work you do in between there. That's what gets you to your goal.
Yeah. To me, that also reminds me of like certain systems, certain lingo. How we're communicating, certain words that we say. That happens a lot in a kitchen. Going off of our notes here, especially when we're going back to the idea of utilizing or learning the skill of baking, how that could help us be a leader, how that could help us in our content creation. It's planning, organization, efficiency, consistency, quality. We literally took about 2 hours to just prepare for this one show.
100%.
And I think and I have my own YouTube channel, and I think about all the preparation that I've done, but sometimes I just slap things on the wall. And that's just not the best way to work. But I appreciate so much that we've taken this time just to go through these ideas. Because there's so much clarity, there's chemistry. I love it, man.
And it's funny you mentioned that, right? All right, so this is time to introduce to the.
We got a book coming, guys. It's very important that you understand that books are going to be highlighted in these episodes. That's the mystery box.
What's in here? Well,
yeah. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
There's books, and
Nice.
what you'll see here is which book do we start with? Well, I can share the book that I've been kind of digging in. It's this book by Gerald Sindel.
Yeah.
And by the way, books.
Well, first of all, we're not sponsored by anyone.
We're not sponsored.
We're not sponsored.
Sponsor us.
You can sponsor us, but we're not sponsored by them. But we're also not, I mean, the books that we want to that we talk about, we simply recommend them just because we've had the benefits from them. But go ahead.
Exactly. And just this question alone, right? Because if you want to understand skills, you need to understand how to think.
Yeah.
Thinking at its core, right? And that's what we're doing. We're helping people to think before you want to grow or before you want to develop. And the only way you do that, I mentioned this book because there was a good point made on distinctions being made. So the same goes with a skill. You need to be able to make the distinction or the discerning between what is not happening, what is happening, and then how do you make that happen.
Yeah.
So for instance, right now, like the planning and preparation, that's a skill. Will we get faster and better? Definitely. But the first time, understand, like it's always going to be longer. It takes more because you don't have the proper orientation. You're still building. The way I like to think about it, you're building the lattice work. Like if we're building a construction, you need the supporting systems, you need your mesh, your scaffolding, right?
Yeah.
All of this is required. And oftentimes that gets skipped where we just want to start doing stuff.
Yeah.
And it works to a point. Yeah.
Yeah, but not good. I mean, in other words, the structure of a building isn't sound.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, maybe that kind of correlates to like, your end product's not sound, your episode's not sound, your business is not sound. So if you don't do any of all that preparation, it's obviously not going to end up to a good product.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. So we've covered 2 of the surprising ways learning a new skill can elevate our life. We talked about crocheting, talked about baking. I think one of the things that we want to talk about now is communication, specifically public speaking. How can we get better with that skill? I say start a podcast.
Heck yeah.
And so that's what we're doing right now. I mean, we're starting this podcast, but why start a podcast, Frank? How could that skill elevate our life?
There's different numbers thrown around. At times I've heard 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day. Some say it's more like in the thousand. Well, the point is like it's hard to gauge because we're all different. But let's just say we have thousands of ideas and thoughts every moment, every day. But like it said, right, nothing happens until something is sold, right? Or no action happens until there's a real world interaction with the, again, real world, right? To reemphasize that.
That reminds me of a real quick sales thing. It's, all ideas are good on only when they sell.
Exactly. Yeah. Then it's like, this is the best idea I ever had.
Exactly.
Of course I'm a genius now.
Yeah, exactly.
You just tried a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you can have all the ideas in the world. If it doesn't sell, it's no good.
A podcast is a great way. If you're a speaker, if you have ideas, if you need to express them and start giving them a tangible form, podcasting will do that for you. Because you see, like we were talking about, if we tend to gravitate towards book and learning and taking in so much information, we get to the point where we're like sponges that are overfilled. But we need to squeeze the knowledge, and that takes the form of insights. We distill our own knowledge by expressing it. And eventually this expression, right, becomes your body of work from which you build your courses, your programs, your resources. But you also, what's more, you leave that impact. Yeah. If something took you 10 years to learn that you can save someone from having to go through, that's the gift that you start to produce. So that's what this podcast is. It's a gift. It's a way that we're able to take this knowledge that we've acquired by many means, right? A lot of time, energy, effort, and start giving it, right? The gift to give.
Did we just find the name of our podcast show? We haven't even named it. This episode is brought to you by The Gift. The Gift.
The Giver's Gift.
Exactly, The Giver's Gift. Okay, so I kind of want to go back to something that you just said a second ago. I think you can relate to this. I've had like so many ideas for a show, or even like I said, like on in my work and things like that. Building these ideas. The idea is there, but it's so hard to birth it. It's so hard to make it happen.
Yes.
That I get
Yes.
almost discouraged, and I say you know what, it's not worth it.
Yeah, 100%. By some strange reason, and this is where I reference another book.
Nice.
So this book is called The Strangest Secret. Don't let the name throw you off. It's really powerful. It's short. It started off as a 30-minute audio message that, again, Earl Nightingale started. He had a sales company, insurance. He gave it to his salespeople. They loved it. And eventually it birthed like the whole audio listening industry.
Did it?
Yeah. It started from like this one recording that
Wow.
earned like a platinum record in the 60s, 70s, right? Crazy to think, right?
Wow.
Like it's been a long... Well, in it, he talks about this strange idea, which is, for some odd reason, we believe others can do it, but we can't.
Yeah.
And we have all this knowledge, all these gifts, again, all these ideas that are only coming up for us, but we don't take the time, or we don't feel confident enough that they're worthwhile. Again, and he explains it, and I believe this to be true. The things that are given to us for free, we take for granted.
Oh, absolutely.
And when it comes to ideas, since especially if we start taking in others' perspectives, and we're constantly working on improving ourselves, on reading to become leaders, readers become leaders, that saying.
Yes.
We think that, of course, everyone else has done it, but they haven't.
Yeah.
And that's the ability, right, to speak the message, because then in doing so, your words could reach someone.
Yeah.
And give them just that slight push to encourage them. And that's what we're talking to you about. Like, have I wished I would have done this a long time ago? Of course. And there's always a regret, but then there's also the opportunity to realize that you're planting now and you're nurturing with the goal of being able to give to the future.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I know for me personally, public speaking has actually helped me in a ton of ways. Obviously in my business, how I communicate with my customers, how I communicate even with my YouTube channel. But I think more than anything, it's finding meaningful conversation, because whenever we get together with our friends, and we have common friends, mutual friends.
Yeah.
Some of the conversations that we could get into, I would say they're not frivolous. It's not about possessions.
No.
It's not about. It's literally about growth. It's just like, this experience that I had made me a better father, made me a better husband, made me a better friend.
Right.
And it's strange to see that public speaking helped me to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like public speaking is just, one of those skills that, it's you got to develop it every day.
Exactly.
Every
Exactly.
day.
Do you speak?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone was, right?
Yeah.
And there's conversations that are weightier than others.
No.
And it's in those moments that all the preparation you've done shows up.
Yeah.
So there's a saying, I think it goes something to the effect of, the moment you open your mouth, you let the world know who you are. Which says a lot, right?
Uh-oh.
Like, okay, so, so what is coming out of my mouth, right?
Right.
And then there's some wise words, right? From the abundance of the heart speaks the mouth, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what is coming out of you at any given time? What is it that you are outputting? Well, it's a reflection of, again, your inner work that you've done to take in your knowledge, to read, learn, reflect deeply. Ultimately, it's the word we've been using, right? To think.
Yeah.
Learn how to think so that you can create these skills. And what's more, to be a good speaker, you, in essence, are imparting information. You're teaching.
Yeah.
You're creating. You're taking those insights and translating them from your experience, your perspective, the brand of you, right? Which is something we'll dive into.
Yeah.
And that's the power. I heard something to the effect that the likelihood of replicating every circumstance to make you was something like 1 out of 400 trillion.
Oof.
1 out of 400 trillion. It's mind-blowing, right? Like all the variables and all the circumstances that had to happen for us to be alive. As unique individuals, the voice of everyone matters. But that voice has to be translated. It has to be expressed in such a way that it can reach the person, which is your audience. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that, I don't know, for some reason, it just got me thinking about, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, the deaf.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even the deaf can learn public speaking skills to communicate in in marvelous ways to reach the heart, really.
Yeah. And it's backed by science, right? A large percentage, something to the effect of, depends on who you ask, but over 60% of our language is nonverbal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's not even what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's the intention. It's how you're presenting it. Because your body language, in sign language, right? There's a box around you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in the box, outside the box, in the box? And then there's like positions, like, okay, who's the character on the right? Who's the character on the left? And you're moving. You're in sway, right? Well, ultimately what you're doing is you're sharing, you're delivering your thoughts, your essence. Because again, like, let's abstract it, right? We're going to say this oftentimes. Let's go higher. All of us are here with a way that's unique in how we see the world. Yeah. And we have gifts. We have these strengths that are unique to every single individual.
Absolutely.
And then there's work that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And in that work, we can take our identity, our role of who we are. We can, in essence, work with these tools of our environment. And the end outcome is we make the world better by sharing our gift.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why every person matters. That's why every person's story matters. That's why one of the first things that you could do, one of the best things that you could do, is learn a person's name and pronounce it correctly.
Yes.
And say it. I think it's in How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Say their names 3 times and you'll never get it out of your brain. It's just say it 3 times, learn it correctly. That means so much to people. And the ability to be able to publicly speak and to be able to translate that's a powerful thing. So I'm grateful. That's probably one of my most favorite things to develop is public speaking. And all of it, like you mentioned, my body language,
100%.
Facial expressions, even to the degree that how I listen. I would love to explore a podcast, an episode just about listening, the skill of listening, because that alone is an important skill. And people think, I know how to listen. No, you don't.
No, listening and hearing are not the same. We hear, but we don't listen.
Yeah.
And the unique medium of public speaking, you can get it to a certain extent with writing, if you're a phenomenal writer. But today's attention span, it's gone, right? Public speaking has revolutionized the world.
Yeah.
Many of the revolutionaries who have a movement or a change were great, phenomenal public speakers.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's words that were spoken thousands of years ago that to this day inspire us, right? So that's the ability that a person can have when they speak. Yeah. But what it is, it's the fact you're communicating. You're sharing and you're saying to someone when you see their name, I see you, I know you, I'm here for you. And you can do that collectively with a group, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000, or even through a medium like YouTube, right? What we're doing here, a podcast, you're reaching. And the energy that was captured in the moment when you were having this conversation isn't lost in the translation because it'll reach the person at the time they most need it. And that's it, right? To reach the heart is, in today's age where it's so easy to get caught up with like the technology, the tools, the process, the system, they have their place, without a doubt. But who are you speaking to at the end of the day?
Yeah.
It's a person to person. That's what it is.
By the way, we have a free public speaking scorecard that you can download off of the link below. And this will actually help you with regards to kind of gauge where maybe you're deficient in your public speaking, right, Frank?
Exactly.
Can you elaborate?
100%. You can't know what you need to improve on if you haven't measured where you're at.
Yeah.
So any real change begins with a point of start. And in that point of start, you identify what are the areas where I'm deficient. And not deficient in the negative sense, rather there's a skill that I can acquire, which is public speaking, which we're able to teach, and we're happily doing so. Mm-hmm. We've helped hundreds of people at this point through our speeches and the deliveries. In fact, what we're doing right here, learn how to public speak, measure it, and then see what areas you can improve on, and watch and see how you start to transform your world from the moment you do that.
Yeah. So if you're interested in the scorecard, click the link below. You can get your free public speaking scorecard chart that can help you to find out where you can definitely improve. And we would love to be able to know if what you think about these episodes. Subscribe and give us a like.
Yeah, do it.
So one of the things that we also are kind of exploring with regards to skills that we learn every day that can elevate our life, um, it, dancing. So, I think about dancing and I'm like, how does the skill of dancing help me elevate my life? And I'm a dancer, bro. I love to dance.
I love it. Love it.
But I never really thought that learning the skill of dancing was going to be, something that was going to, help me in other areas of, I would say, my professional career, my communication skills, things like that.
There's a term called the spillover effect, right? So imagine like you have a bunch of cups and then you put water in one, it overflows and it starts filling these other cups, right? Dancing's that. Dancing gets you in a state of joy right away. So you're happy, you're moving, you're ecstatic. Because you can take anybody and they start off like super tense. Maybe we all start this way, right? But then you start moving and swaying and in flow. And by the end of it, you have a good sweat and you are ecstatic.
Yeah.
Because the endorphins in your body start releasing. You start feeling like the excitement. And then for that moment, you're in flow, which we'll talk about because flow is a big, big concept, right?
Yeah.
And in flow, it means that everything seems to stop. And it's just you and the person you're dancing with. And
Wow.
you're moving.
So
Please.
I have to stop you there. So literally, flow, which is, to me, is a word of movement,
Yeah.
it actually means stop.
Mm-hmm.
Elaborate
Time
on
stops.
that. Okay, well, time stops then.
And what, not that it really does, but to you,
Sure.
in your perception, you are so enthralled and engaged. Look at yourself. Imagine when you were a kid with that toy that you so desired.
Uh-huh.
That was your world for that moment.
Sure.
And you enjoyed it with the highest thrill and exhilaration. That's the feeling that happens when you dance. Dancing, the skill of dancing, can take you from being uptight, bored, frustrated, small and constricted,
Yeah.
to in flow and movement and dancing and swaying, like I mentioned. But let's abstract it. Again, here's a word.
Love that.
What is the biggest thing you can think of?
In terms of,
The world, in terms of like, when we think about something,
I personally, the universe.
The universe.
I just think how vast the universe is.
the vastness of the universe. Exactly, well put. What does universe mean? One song. One song. Literally, the constellations, the galaxies, they're all
The
dancing.
dance. The dance.
The dance of life.
Wow.
And in this
That's awesome.
movement, we are also in turn. Even right now, if you were to slow us down in this conversation, it would look like
Yeah.
a dance if you were to see it frame by frame.
Yeah.
And so public speaking is really dancing. It's really movement. It's you tapping into the existing life force and being able to have this synchronous movement. When you're in sync with someone, you feel it. Like you're on the same wavelength. We're really saying we're on the same dance floor.
It's a dance off.
Dance.
We're like fist pumping. This is
100% rehearsed.
absolutely, yeah, that was in the script. But when you take it to those terms, when you think about like what you just mentioned about the universe and how it is this eloquent, beautiful, already designed dance, like a waltz, like a slow dance. Man, that really does give you some perspective
Yeah.
on how dancing is an important skill in life. I had read, and I know you had mentioned it earlier, how dancing can even have a physical benefit for those that are like have dementia or
When it comes to mental health, right,
mental health, there you go.
There's, because think of this, when you're dancing, at its core you think, oh, it's two people moving, so what? Well, let's go deeper. Let's pause and go deeper.
yeah.
We're talking about millions of micro interactions happening. And the mental agility required to do that. It's a muscle, right? Our brain is a muscle. We're not using it, so it atrophies. We use it, it doesn't. we are literally almost mind reading to anticipate our partner's movement, their next step, their next action. And in so doing, this expression forces you to really use the entirety of your senses, whether that's smell, touch, hear,
awesome.
sense, and even intuition, right? To anticipate what's ahead. And when you do that, then you're able to keep your mind in an agile, you're working out your mind and your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because when a lot of dancing is kind of like eye contact, it's also almost like, when a man leads, his body shifts forwards,
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah.
He's taking his partner around.
Yeah.
And I can see how that will actually help someone, develop those synapse or the connections in their brain
Exactly.
to build kind of like muscle memory.
That's it. That's it.
Wow.
And isn't that what the foundation of all skills is?
Yes.
The muscle memory.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Memory comes from the experience, and the
Yeah.
experience comes from the doing.
Okay, so our fifth skill that we really need to develop, and I think it's a very important skill that actually helps us in a lot of ways, is exercise. But we've talked about how exercise,
It's not extra fries, that's for sure.
how is that exercise is a skill that can help us to be happier?
Exercise is an image enhancer. Not only do you look better,
Oh yeah.
but you feel better.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see like the endorphin release, you see the feeling of drawing a sweat. But what's more, when it comes to exercising, you're really creating the skill of discipline. We were talking about this, right? Like you're
Yeah.
literally breaking your body down.
You're beating your body up.
beating yourself up.
Yeah, you're beating yourself up, yeah.
Beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in doing so, you do what's hard.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you start doing like the mind body research on productivity and everything, you see that the highest payoff comes from doing the hard things.
Yes.
So when it comes to happiness, it's not an accident, it's a choice. And the choice is dictated by the skills you've developed, such as getting up early, going to work. Everyone hates that. No one can inherently say, I love it, but it's the knowing and the pushing yourself to do it that produces this happiness outcome, right? Which is what we're after.
Yeah.
And happiness feels so broad, but really it's about feeling good. You feel good, you look good. There's a saying, looking good, feeling good ought to be in Hollywood, right? Like, and it's like you get yourself in a state where, okay, I'm exercising. But again, remember our earlier conversation, you're tapping into like the force, young Padawan, or whatever.
Yeah. No, I get that.
It's
I
like
get that.
the life energy force, right? Which
Yeah.
you have inside of you. Within each of us, when you talk about like, there's a phrase called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. We all have so much potent energy hidden within us.
Interesting.
So for instance, maybe you've heard the story of a mom who, she had her son in a burning car and all of a sudden she pulls
yeah.
this superhuman strength
Yes.
from out of nowhere.
Yes, I've heard that story.
That's because what she's tapping into is this energy house, which is in the mitochondria of our cells, that can pull open and like pull stuff and do almost like these miracles and impossible feats.
Lift like trees and stuff like that. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
What's gonna happen? Their arms fall off the next day, and like the muscles are like torn because of such a impulse. But the point is, we have all this energy within us.
Gosh, that's awesome.
The only way you access it is, or one of the ways you access it is through exercise.
Yeah.
And in doing so, in moving yourself, you start to feel better. You start to want to do more and open up these higher order faculties, which make it so that all these skills we've been talking about are successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that go around a lot with regards to exercise is how much. So, I personally, I walk every morning. You know, I have a pretty physical job, or my line of work, my business. I have a pretty physical line of work that I do in scope of work. But if I find that if I walk just 30 minutes a day, and I do it in the morning, first thing I wake up, do my routine, get my mind right, take a walk. I find that my day, I just like get so much done.
Yeah.
I feel great. But then I hear, I'm 2 hours in the gym, and I'm like, man, I barely have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So how much exercise really should we be considering?
Do the amount that you're going to commit to. You can always build up to the longer hours, but if you're not doing anything right now, get started. Get walking, get moving, get your foundational habit.
Consistency.
Yeah. Because that's another topic that we'll talk at some point.
Yeah.
Habits. What you're trying to do right now at the beginning, especially when it comes to exercise, is build the keystone habit. And what that basically refers to is that habit that you know you can depend on with your eyes closed, with nothing, it's unchangeable. That consistency is what will get you there.
Yeah.
Granted, sometimes you need the flexibility, or you need the adjustments, or you miss a day. That's okay. Miss a day, 2 days, but don't miss 3.
Yeah.
Because then at that point, it's a new habit.
Oh yeah, and you know, that's so interesting that you said that, because if I'm thinking about how my exercise routine was before to where it is now, I think I was probably exercising. I was doing like HIIT or lifting weights.
Yeah.
I was probably doing like 3 times in a day, but there was 4 other days I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't productive. But I literally walk every day now. Like every day I take a 30-minute walk. And it's game changing.
It is.
It's just because of that daily habit. I feel so much better. I think so much better. I can finish what I need to finish, and in my day, much more fulfilled, with purpose, happier.
Yeah.
Wow, that's meta.
Yeah,
Talk about this meta.
Yeah. To be happy isn't this hidden secret.
No, it's not.
It's a combination of many things, right? And what walking does, or exercise, is it primes you and it opens you up. Because think about it, like if I'm all closed up and frowning all the time, like before you long, like I heard this. There's another book. I don't have it here.
Uh-oh.
That I didn't bring that book.
It's all good. It's all good.
In it, like it gave such a beautiful comparison. It says, imagine inside of your head you have 2 foremen. One is Mr. Happy and one is Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative comes on and he's producing, like imagine you're producing widgets or gadgets or whatever, and he says, "Oh, it's a horrible day." Notice that thought. In your mind, if you think that, "Oh, it's a horrible day," immediately you think, "Yeah, I was late, I didn't do this, that's sunny, it's hot." It starts producing and creating other negative thoughts.
Yeah, it's true.
Scrap that and give Mr. Positive the foreman role, and what do you see? Well, now all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, it's a beautiful day." And what do you think? "Oh, yes, it is. Like, I got to eat my salad, I got to eat my shake, I got to have all my food." It's like the positive things start to attract, and it starts to produce them. So your thinking ultimately dictates what you do, right? And exercising as a whole enables you to give Mr. Foreman Positive the advantage, the leg up. It starts to give him like a full line ahead, a plan of work for the rest of the day.
That's
if you do it
amazing.
early in the morning. Yeah.
It sounds so simple. It's literally that simple. And yet so many people have trouble doing it. Creating habits, from being able to just, simply get up and go. I mean, it's daunting for some. And, I get it. I mean, not everybody has.
I get it.
There was a time that I was so lethargic, so like, like I didn't, do much. But now I understand that, whatever habits I'm doing now, they're having long-term benefits. Obviously, I'll live longer. I'll, be able to produce more, do more.
Yeah. And so tying it all back, the skill.
Yeah.
Is the output, the inner work, right? We're talking and sharing on how to become a better speaker, a better communicator.
Yeah.
If you set yourself up with these other corresponding skills, you're propping yourself up so that you are the best. Because ultimately, you can't hide what you are, right?
Yeah.
Like many people think like, "Oh, if I learn this technique or this trick or this tip, those will help," but they're only facades to an extent. What you want to do is you want to imbibe them, you want to live them, you want to share from the, again, overflow. And in that state, then you're cutting through a lot of the noise. And that's what's happening now, right?
Oh, yeah.
With the skills.
Yeah.
So the more competent you become, the more responsibility you get, which in turn gives you more responsibility. And it's your ability to respond, again, your responsibility.
Yeah. Frank, I think we just went through the wormhole.
We did. Let's do it.
We just went through the wormhole. And so what we've covered basically, were these 5 surprising ways that we could learn a new skill that can, benefit our life. Knitting, how that relates to like things that we do on repetition code, things like that. The dancing, the baking, the exercise. More importantly, the public speaking, which is kind of the goal of what this podcast is designed to do. We definitely want to hone in. I know that when we've had our conversations, the public speaking has definitely been that highlighted point.
Yeah.
And I'll put it to you this way.
Yeah.
If you can tap into a public speaking training course, maybe workbook or something like that, that will allow you to kind of develop these things slowly but surely.
Yes.
And you know, I've learned a lot just in this time. We were hitting an hour almost.
Yeah.
I've learned so much just doing this, just talking.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we hope that you guys have learned a lot too. You know, I don't know how to thank you, man.
No, man, man. Thank you. Thank you for giving yourself and also expanding it to the future selves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What we're able to do when you speak, when you teach, you're marking that moment with a message.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us, you know, like there's so many, again, bombardments towards us about you should be this, you should be that, you should be that. I think we all know what we should do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the doing part that sometimes is a struggle because we haven't gotten the clarity. And so there's that inner clarity that oftentimes becomes clear the moment you start speaking it.
Yeah.
And when that's out, and of course you were the speaker, of course you were this, but no one saw like thinking and the indecision that happened before you got to that point.
Absolutely. And that's what the wormhole is about. It's basically the action. It's the next step that we're taking here. It's you know, after listening to all of this, it's just like, okay, so what is it good for? I mean, what did it teach me?
Yeah.
What am I going to do now? And I think that's important. The wormhole is that, you know, it just transports.
Cut through the noise.
Cuts through the noise.
Cut through the vortex.
Exactly. You know, we're literally transported to our goal.
Yeah.
But by taking what we've just talked about, and these are just a few examples.
Oh yeah, man.
Just a few. But take what we just talked about and now apply it. Put it in your everyday life.
Well, and who we're targeting, right? You're likely interested in taking your skills, developing them to the point where you can monetize them, where you can build the lifestyle that you desire.
Yeah.
YouTube. You want to be a good YouTuber?
Yeah.
Speak better.
Oh, absolutely.
Engage me, like entertain me. And we all have our styles, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, many years it felt like, oh, I'm too intellectual. I have too much stuff that like too much of this. Again, it's all noise. Start speaking it. Yeah, it might not. You'll have your particular style, and there will be the person that resonates with you.
Yeah.
And before you know, you're like, whoa, like I've always been fascinated, right? That people paid for others to teach them. Like it blows my mind, right? Because I would do it for free.
Yeah. Well.
But
yeah,
that's the skill, right? That all of us have, and we're able to share. So in the wormhole, it's about that. It's about the action and how do we get you as fast as possible to the other side.
Yeah, and I think that in turns also applies to like implementation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what we're talking about here is like, yeah, that sounds great, but how? Well, this is how you do it.
Right.
The implementation part, that's what we all got to do. It's the skills of learning skills.
If you've never spoken, you have to start, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even the actual skill set.
Yeah.
You can get coached and taught, and the techniques, as I mentioned, and they're valuable, and we'll give them. Like, we have to know them.
Yeah.
But it's the inner conversation, the public speaking you do to yourself. That's where the biggest change happens, because we're like ripples, right?
Yeah.
You drop a ripple, how far does it go? Potentially to infinity. But the problem is we have that rock, we have that pebble that we're ready to drop, but we keep catching it, or we keep throwing it at ourselves. Yeah. Instead of allowing that process to birth out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Frank, I've really enjoyed this episode.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, you guys check the next one out. We'll definitely be providing you some updates. Please like and subscribe. Share it with someone that you guys know. Anything else you want to say, bro?
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.